In parts 1 and 2 of this series about improvising on piano, I talked about improvising over the tune So What by Miles Davis. So it's 16 bars of D minor 7, where you can use any white note, and then 8 bars of E flat minor, or you could use any of the black ones. So it's a really handy way to get going without really getting into the theory too much. However, I got a comment on part 1 which said, too jazzy. This is for cocktail drinkers who want to get drunk. I thought, okay. I'm not really sure what that meant, but perhaps it meant that I was doing too much along with that standard. I was just exploring a little bit too much. Well, it's different if you're playing a jazz standard, where actually that sort of thing is really part and parcel of what jazz is. It's about exploration and seeing what's possible and how you can bend those rules. However, this comment actually is pertinent as well, because it says, I think it said, there was too much going on there against something that's actually quite simple. So today I'm going to go through how to improvise a bit of piano on a rock and pop tune. So I've got a backing track on GarageBand here, which I'm going to use. It's got 2 chords, C major and D minor, but a very different genre. Let's have a look. So the backing track I've got does this. It's got drums, bass and an acoustic guitar part. So there's rhythm going on there. You've got the bass with the bass line that's sort of, melodic in sort of construction, and then the acoustic guitar, which is sort of strummed. Now, how would I add piano to this without getting in the way of that simplicity? Well, let's take a couple of notes, but which ones? Well, C major on the piano is C, E and G. And the scale in C is all the white notes. So we're kind of looking at so what here. However, D minor, which is the second chord, also has those notes. So we're not going to the black notes for E flat minor or anything. We're just sticking with C and D minor. Now, as a pianist, it depends what's happening. If that vocal line is interrupted or overpowered by anything, I mean, there's no vocals on this, but let's just imagine that you're just putting in really, really simple ideas. It could go something like this. Now, I had an idea that did this, it had that little sort of figure. You can work with that just to give it, there's like a little musical hook going on there. Now, there is only one problem with this. If there is a vocal line there, you've just got to keep just do some rhythmic stuff that has those chords, but nothing that gets in the way of the vocal and really goes with those, the bass, the drums and the acoustic guitar there. Now, in terms of the scale, I've got a major chord. And there are your 7 different notes, or an 8-note scale, because you've got 2 of the same note there. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8, or it's 1 again if you're going to go up another octave and another octave. Now, there's one note that doesn't work very well at all, and it's this one. It's that 4th note. The reason it doesn't work is because it's an octave and a semitone above one of the notes in the chord, namely the E. And there's your problem. Now, that is a general rule. If you've got an octave plus a semitone, unless the chord is a bit more jazzy and you've got something, there we go, I'm talking about jazzy again. If there's something that's a more complicated chord like C7 flat 9, then we've got that interval there, but that's just a little aside. So if I have the C and the G, an octave plus a semitone gives you your C sharp. You wouldn't want to play that over a rock and pop tune. No. It may be that you want to explore that in a jazz standard, but that's not here. Yeah, that's quite a bold statement, really. So we've got that problem there. Now, if we strip this scale back to the notes that really matter, we get the major pentatonic. So if I've got a C major chord here, I have my first, second, third, fifth, sixth and eighth, or back to one again. So I've actually only got 5 different notes. And then you've got, they just repeat themselves as you go up the piano. It also misses out the 7th. So this neatly misses out that problem of the 4th. But it also misses out the 7th note. And that's a flavour in itself. And if the vocal line is singing the top, is singing the root note, la, that note is going to grate against it. And the vocal line is more than likely going to have that root note in it. So if I play the major pentatonic, that is actually going to solve that problem pretty much at a stroke. However, we don't want to do that over this. We've just got to pick our notes carefully. So there's a major pentatonic riff, so if I play that over the backing track, I wouldn't want to do any more than that, and preferably a little bit less. I missed out those first 2 notes there. So really all this is about is having the tools and using them in the correct way. Now D minor, which was the second chord in this sequence, you have more freedom. Because all of the notes work. You haven't got any gremlins in there that aren't going to work. However, with the freedom comes responsibility. We need to make sure that if I go to that D minor chord, that I'm not just going to suddenly start twizzling about because I know that I can just use anything. So if I go back to the beginning, I'm going to play something. I'm also going to use the upper octaves here because actually the acoustic guitar is kind of going, it's in this sort of area, you know, the sort of round middle C and the C below, that's where the guitar is. There's your open strings of the guitar, so an E chord is that, a C chord is this, a D chord is that, a D minor. So I can start using this sort of range to contribute to that without getting in the way. Kept the ideas really simple. It just adds something to the production there without getting in the way. Now, of course, there's no vocal line there at the moment, but if I sing something, I'll just go la over this while playing some solo lines on the piano. We should be able to make it so that this serves my vocal rather than my vocal getting sort of swamped. So my sort of 4th line there ended a little bit early, so you might be able to put a little fill in, but you don't want to fill the space just for the sake of it. It has to make a lot of sense, and especially when that vocalist is maybe preparing for the the next line, they've got to have that freedom to be able to deliver their line, which might even start before the end of the last bar. It might actually start slightly early. So you don't want to put too many sort of... You don't want to put any of that in it. So actually what I'm doing is I'm using the tools, and a jazz musician who is acutely aware of a top line, vocals for example, who is really aware and knows about dynamics and about simplicity, actually has all the tools at their disposal and is very useful in a recording studio situation. So there we are. It's just keeping things simple. I know I've just used white notes here. Of course, when you're dealing with other scales, it's the same sort of thing. You just got to remember the combinations of your sharps and flats, and you're away. Just take things really easily. And this is not just piano. This would be for guitar or saxophone or anything else that might be an addition to your main sort of bass drums and chords.